So I just wanted to make a quick video based on the success of the last one we launched last week on making main closing loops. Today I wanted to cover assembly on a harness container system. And I wanted to preface this by saying that if you don't have an inkling as to what you're doing, please stop and ask an FAA licensed rigger. Again, what I'm showing you here is just mostly for informational purposes only. If you don't know what you're doing, reach out to a DPRE in your area. You can also reach out to the local rigger at your drop zone, although some are better than others. I know I've learned a lot here from the riggers at Skydive Carolina, as well as Skydive Orange and Skydive Sussex. Again, there's good ones out there. Some are better than others. But again, if you don't know what you're doing, for God's sakes, please do not hook this up and jump it if you don't know what you're doing. It's a very straightforward process, but I don't want anybody watching this that doesn't know what they're doing and hooking up handles and hooking and attaching risers and those kinds of things, and they go jumping. They don't know what they're doing, because that's not what this video is intended for. What I'm going to do is pretty basic. I'm not going to do any type of slink or repeat links, line attachments in this video where we're attaching lines to those links. Again, that's more of a senior rigger type certification. Again, it's very important there that you know what you're doing in terms of being able to do continuity checks. Putting a line on incorrectly or out of order can make for a bad day, and depending upon where it's at, you're very likely going to have to execute emergency procedures. So we're not going to do that. We're going to assume that riggers come in and put the lines on the riser, and yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through and show you how to attach risers. Again, these aren't really airworthy. None of this stuff's that airworthy, but you know, we're packing it. It's not what it's designed for. All right, these are just designed to get lots of pack jobs in and do more demonstration type purposes. But they work one time. So we've got the Type 17A risers here. It's very important to distinguish between the two. One is going to be your right, and one's going to be your left. This is your right riser. How do we know it? Well, it's got the RSL shackle here, so I'll put that on the right side. And yours may not be a Vector 3. It may have the RSL attachment point on the left side, which I don't like those, but you can go listen to the podcast or talk to people as to why. I like the RSL on the right side, the same side as your cutaway handle, which ironically we'll be talking about here in a bit when we hook it up. Okay, your cutaway handle, it's going to go on the right side. Get your rip cable, and I'm actually interested in trying out on my new Vector. I've got Spectra coming in. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I still like this stainless steel. I remember that, forget that test question. I think that this is either rated at 200 or 300. I think it's 200 before this stuff breaks, so it's very solid. But I'll show you how to run this through. And if you've got the Skyhook, again, if this is a Vector, I'll show you how to install your Skyhook RSL system. So let's jump right in. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly go through the different components that we have and what we're going to be using to do this assembly. Again, if you don't feel comfortable doing any of this on your own, make sure to reach out to a certified, licensed FAA rigger. They'll be glad to help you out and walk you through it. So we've got a set of risers here. These are Type 17 risers. What you want to make sure you do, again, these are already going to be set up by your rigger, meaning that they're already going to have the slinks or the repeat links on there that are going to have your lines, and that's what's going to connect to your canopy. Again, these are Vector risers here. And notice, make sure these are set up and connected correctly, that you have the right riser on the right side, right? And what I mean by that is notice here in my hand, we have an RSL system on this particular harness container, and this riser does not have an RSL shackle on it. So what does that mean? It's going to go on the left side. Why? Because when we install the Skyhook RSL system in a second, right here, it just Velcros right in. That's on the right side of the harness container system. And would you know it? Here is your other riser, and right here you can see it's got the RSL shackle. So we'll just put this on the right side for now. And you should already know, based on if you've got your A license, which side that the cutaway handle goes on. That's going to be on your right side. If you don't remember, hopefully you do. It's pretty important. And then you're going to have your rip cord. Your rip cord's going to go here on the left side, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our RSL MARD system is set up correctly. And again, what this consists of is it consists of your RSL shackle, and that goes through a long lanyard, and that lanyard's going to end up connecting to your right riser. And the reason it connects to your right riser is because in the event that you have a cutaway and use your cutaway handle, your main canopy is going to jetson and pull your reserve pin for you. And if you have a marred system, it's going to do even one better. It's going to connect to the bridle on your reserve pilot chute, and that's going to pull your free bag for you, so it'll actually static line essentially your free bag out of your reserve packing tray and get the reserve canopy over your head quicker than it would if you were just pulling the reserve pin. So let's go through real quickly how you install this. Again, this is a Vector 3. You'll notice here that right over the right riser tray, we have a sheet of Velcro right here. And on the back, we've kind of got the male side of the Velcro. And the way this is going to go in, this is the Collins lanyard right here. And I've mentioned that several times in my podcast episode. And I like UPT and SunPath because they have the Collins lanyard and the right side of RSL system. Again, why this is important is in the event that you break a riser, your right riser below the RSL attachment, before it pulls and does its job, pulls your main pin and pulls the reserve canopy out over your head, it releases the left 3-ring system. As all this stuff is being pulled away, it releases this left riser and clears it before your reserve canopy's out. And that's extremely important so you don't have a main reserve entanglement. Some of these other equipment manufacturers that have the RSL on the left side with no Collins lanyard, if you break below the RSL attachment, you have to manually cut away your malfunctioning main canopy that you'll be suspended by on your right 3-ring system. And by then you've already got a reserve canopy out and you're suspended again by your right 3-ring system until you manually cut away. And that can be bad news. So again, this little lanyard right here, it's very important you have it on your harness container. I would only recommend jumping manufacturers, again, that have the right side RSL system and the Collins lanyard. Now let me show you how to get this hooked up. We'll assume that these things are already pre-lubricated. I like to use WD-40 silicone. It does a great job, and it really allows the cable to slide in and out of the housing with ease. Again, on the left side, you've got the ripcord. Always just want to make sure and check that this is on and tight. You know, there was an issue a couple of years back with a manufacturer that didn't have a marred system, and they actually had a reserve pin coming on off the end of this ripcord, and it was loose, and that's bad news, right? Because you pull the handle and no pin comes out, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this marred system, this RSL system, UPT calls it, and you're actually going to just connect this right over the right riser. You see that strip of Velcro right there? There's actually a male side here on the back of this RSL marred system, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this Collins lanyard is facing in towards the reserve packing tray. And if you've got this size correctly, it should just line right up. There. See, now I've got it a bit too long. Let's put it just like this. See how perfectly that fits? Now your Collins lanyard is going to face, again, down towards your reserve and main packing tray. We're going to be running the cutaway cables through it here in a second. So again, you want this little lanyard here that contains the reserve pin facing inward as well too. This here is actually connected to your Skyhook. And if you've never seen a Skyhook before, it actually is just a little hook. You can go on and look at the UPT Vector manual. That's sewn onto the reserve bridle, and that reserve bridle runs from your reserve free bag to the pilot chute, and it just fits right over the Skyhook, and then you use a surgeon's knot to make sure it's attached on. We want those both facing inward as well too. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the cutaway cables. So we look for where these are connected on the main lift web, And first thing I like to do is just make sure this Velcro side is sitting up against the Velcro. And usually you can just follow the handle. So this is going to be front, this is going to be front. And so we'll just run this cable right through here. It looks like this front one should actually connect up here to the right housing, but it doesn't. You'll see in a second that it goes all the way around. And it's going to spit out up here right under the right riser. It's pretty cool. And as you can see, it just spits out right here under the right riser, right? We're going to take this cable and pass it through the Collins lanyard. And we're going to beat it through the cable housing on the other side. Make sure this is pushed up in there. And usually it should do the work for us. It should come out here on this right side where the right opening is. Make sure this is just pushed through. Sometimes it gets a little bulky right here. There we have it. See, it's coming out the right side. Well, the left side, but the right side it should come out of, right? And you can always double check, but you can go to the UPT Vector Manual and they'll show you what the links outside of these housings should be. Now, to connect the right cutaway cable, again, you would think with this being in front, it would actually go to the right, but it doesn't. It's the one in the rear. It's just the way they have it set up. And there we go, out the right side, right? It's interesting to note that even though the shortest path between the handle is the right housing is actually longer coming out than the left side is. Again, that's more of a technical type mechanic that I guess naturally makes sense because you want the distance to be about equal, right? When it's all said and done, which is the reason why this housing is actually longer, right? Going from this handle to the left housing, it's actually shorter coming out the top. Now what we'll do is we'll take the ripcord, and this goes on the left side. Hopefully you remember that from the FF. I like to seat the handle first. And if you go into the main lift web, there's actually only Velcro on one side. I like to seat that first. Seat it first, and then feed this up in here. And you can see in the reserve packing tray, this comes right out the top. Boom. And what you'll notice here is that this is actually curved. One side's more curved than the other. So when we're actually packing in reserve, you'll note that this pin, again, that comes off the RSL system, again, this shackle, there's a shackle on this end, right, that's connected to the front because this is going to attach to your riser. We'll hook up in a second. This pin actually seats inside this the end of this ripcord in a very, very specific way. So that's that. Now let's do the fun part. Hook up the risers again. Make sure that you know which side your RSL goes on. Again, this is a Vector 3, and thank God the riser attaches on the right side. And you've got a harness ring, right? So the way I was taught when I got licensed at Paraclete XP is it goes metal fabric, metal fabric, metal fabric, right? So it goes big ring, right? And then your little ring's pulled up, and then what happens? You're gonna have this white, I think this is type 2, go around the verse. You see that? See how that piece of fabric comes out the grommet like such? You want to make sure before you just stick the cutaway cable in there, you've got a grommet up against that. And I've seen that can cause major issues if that doesn't happen. Make sure, I mean, again, these are pretty stretched pretty good. These aren't really airworthy risers. That piece of two fabric goes through that grommet, and then all we're going to do is we're going to take that yellow cutaway cable and then push it into the hard housing on the riser, and then we'll be done. Make sure there's no twists in the cutaway housing. You know, back in the day, this cutaway housing was hard to find, and so Bill Booth, Lord of the Three Rings himself, actually found that off payphones. And there you have it. There's our right side. Now, make sure you're not done with this yet. You have to attach the RSL, and you want this to be free and clear, right? So you'll notice we have some excess right here, and this is sewn, this is double stitched here. You just take this into the RSL, you push it right into this little pocket. So it's nice, it keeps everything nice and organized. And then you attach it. Make sure to attach your RSL, else your MARD system won't work. It'll be deactivated, and so will your RSL. RSL doesn't work, neither does your MARD. Skyhook. That's on. Now, that's on. Of course, you would have our lines and canopy suspended from this as well, too. Just want to run this out, make sure that there's no twists or anything. But this is on, as it should be. Again, for setting up your toggles on this, that's something that a senior rigger or master rigger can help you out with. All right, so we did our right side. Now let's move on to the left side. We'll go big ring, we'll go through medium ring, then through medium ring, we'll go to small ring. We have this little piece of type 2 fabric that's white right here. Check that always to make sure that that doesn't have any sense of wear on it or anything. Else that can be bad news. Again, never take the cutaway cable, yellow cutaway cable, and just run it through. You have to have a grommet up against it. Does that make sense from the housing? It's very, very important. Tremendously important. I've seen, there's been fatalities where people have just actually taken yellow cutaway cable and run it up through here and put it up inside the hard housing of the riser and haven't passed the loop through this cutaway cable housing. It's very important. Don't just run it up through it. Take this, put it through this side right here. And depending upon the age, this may or may not be as easy. I'm having a little bit of difficulty here just because these are older risers. So that's through. Now, make sure it's very important you stick this up into the riser, right? Actually, see here, see how that forms? Metal fabric, metal fabric, metal fabric. Goes through back the end. Grommet, grommet, loop. So those are on. And again, I had mentioned this to you earlier, your lines are going to be connected via slinks. The slinks will actually pass through twice around the ends of the riser. Tandems, I think it's actually 3 times. Double check me on that. But yeah, that's it. That's all you need to do to basically take a canopy off of a main container system, and then maybe you have another set of risers and you can just change the risers out. And that's what I do. I have a couple of sets of risers, so I don't have to constantly change risers out off canopy, because again, every single time you take a canopy and slinks off of a set of risers, you need to be doing continuity checks. It's very important. But there you have it. Hope you learned a lot. And I like the Vector 3s and Sunpath. I think they make the best stuff in the business. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Again, if this seems overwhelming and you don't know what you're doing, please, by all means, contact a master or a senior rigger at your drop zone.